Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior and accomplished entrepreneur and professional from Utah, USA, Mr. Will Christensen. Will, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Will is the president and co-founder at Data Automation. He's the founder of Entrepreneur's Apprentice, and he's the head of partnerships and co-founder at Fractionals United. So, Will, let me start by asking you, tell me a little bit about your own journey and what was a moment that really shaped your approach to automation and workflow optimization?
You know, I would say the journey has been kind of a constant thing. I've constantly been the kind of individual that picks the world apart. My dad tells me a story often about creating a diagram for a machine that would reach behind the house
Hmm.
and suck garbage out of the garbage can so that I didn't have to take it to the curb
Hmm.
because that was my job, right? To take it to the curb. And so I've always been looking for ways to make myself more efficient. My first job out of college, I was doing 18 hours each week, copying and pasting. I automated that down to 2 hours. And that's what drove me to be like, wait a second,
Hmm.
this could be a job. Like, this could be something that I do for other people, which is what led me to go and create data automation and build out all of those different things. And I think one of the most pivotal moments was that moment when I met my mentor.
Hmm.
I didn't even realize it at the time, but he's the one that opened the entrepreneurial door for me.
Hmm.
He was an entrepreneur himself. He had a lot going on for him. He came to me and basically said, Will, I think you could probably do this on your own. Like, you could probably build an
Hmm.
automation company. Like, you could do this for other people. And I
Hmm.
was like, wait a second, he's probably right.
Hmm.
And so I think that idea of mentors and mentorship and cloning yourself and figuring out how to
Hmm.
scale,
Hmm.
that's what led me to Entrepreneur's Apprentice. So automate, delegate, eliminate is my motto. It's what I live by. And my life lessons, I tell people once I've spent about 1,000 hours on a topic, then I move to the next topic and
Hmm.
we go down the pipe. But
Hmm.
automate, delegate, eliminate is my passion.
Wow. Amazing. So let's talk data automation. Tell me about the core mission of your company and how has it evolved?
So, Data Automation is a boutique automation and integration company. They're the guys you go to when something else isn't working,
Hmm.
right? So, when you're trying to automate or look at something or connect different dots and things aren't working or coming together,
Hmm.
Data Automation does all of the unique custom bulk integrations
Hmm.
to make all of those different things happen. So if your automation works in something like Zapier or Make,
Hmm.
fantastic. In this specific situation, people are finding that it's not working, and
Hmm.
so that's where data automation comes in. They automate the unautomatable.
Wow. Wow. And Will, you were just telling me a few minutes back about your mantra, which is automate, delegate, and eliminate.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about how this framework can be applied in a business. And if you have an example, that'll be terrific.
So I would say there are hundreds of different ways that it could be applied in a business. Let me share with you the initial framework. So as I got going on data automation, and I'm one of the original Zapier certified experts.
Okay.
So I was asked to come to a conference
Hmm.
for like all the Zapier people. Like, they have this conference they get together with. I got
Hmm.
to meet Wade Foster in person. Like I've been around the block when it
Hmm.
comes to this automation stuff.
Hmm.
And so there's two different things I'll share with you in terms of automation and frameworks. One, everybody was coming to me and saying, "Well, what should I automate? What should I automate? What should I automate? What should I automate?"
Hmm.
I said, "Well, we've got to come up with some way that we can help people understand what they need to automate
Hmm.
in a different way than just like go automate these same things because every business was so different.
Mm.
And so we started telling people grab out a sticky note, write 15115 across the top.
Mhm.
And then what I want you to do is I want you to write down anytime you come across something that you're doing more than 15 minutes a day,
Mhm.
more than an hour a week, or more than an hour a month.
Mm.
And if you're doing that, you'll start to create a list of the things that are happening repetitively in your
Mm.
business. And then do a tally mark next to each of those things until it hits five. That's the
Mhm.
last five. 15, 1, 1, 5. 15
Mhm.
minutes, 1 hour,
Mm.
weekly, monthly, or excuse me, daily, weekly, monthly. Then um, 5 times manually. And the reason you got to do it 5 times manually is so you actually know what
Mm.
you can automate.
Wow.
Then you start asking yourself these four questions.
Mm.
Where's the data now? Where does the data need to go?
Mm.
Where what triggers the process to start? And how long was this taking you? Right. So like
Mm.
as you dig in and do that, you can start to see some ROI positiveness when it
Mm.
comes to automating.
Well said. Well said. And you do a lot of work with e-commerce companies. So, what are some of the biggest automation challenges you handle for the e-commerce companies? And just for your information, in India, e-commerce companies have gone to quick commerce, where they can deliver anything to me in 10 minutes.
That's amazing. Anything to you in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
We're not quite to that state here in the
I
here
know,
in the
which is
US.
why
We
I
are
wanted to mention that, there
that's
are.
actually that so Amazon has gotten to the point where they can send me a lot of things same day.
Hmm.
A lot of different things that they can do same day.
Hmm.
10 minutes is pretty fantastic.
Amazon
So
in
do
India can deliver me 12 eggs in 10 minutes.
12 eggs in 10 minutes. And is the price the same as
Same
what you would get
price.
in the grocery store?
Same price.
Holy crap.
Therefore, I
So
want to ask you, what are some of the automation challenges e-commerce companies face in the US?
great question. So, I mean, e-commerce companies are facing all sorts of different challenges. One of the most common as they develop an infrastructure where they're able to support fast delivery, not quite
Mm.
that fast,
Mm.
but fast delivery,
Mm.
they're having a difficult time knowing where is this in inventory.
Mm.
You know, which of our warehouses, which of our suppliers has this available right now? And so one of the things that data automation does all day long is inventory syncs.
Mm.
And one misnomer that I would say about an inventory sync is it's actually not a true sync because a
Mhm.
true sync has two sides, right? And it syncs the different sources of truth. In this situation, it's actually more of a master slave situation. I'm talking about computers, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So you have the master database and the slave database, and it overwrites. So it only goes one way. So there's one
Mhm.
source of truth, and it overwrites. But that integration, there's a company called Global Tech. They do headsets and all of those sorts of different things. Jabra, Evolve 75, love that
Mhm.
headset. They that company we built hundreds of different integrations for them
Mhm.
and integrated 30 or 40 different companies, connected all of those different inventory sources. And so when it came down to it and we went to their listings on Amazon,
Mhm.
we were able to make it so that they could capture the demand
Mhm.
faster than the other people. Because the moment they came into inventory with their suppliers, they were the ones who were posting it up there first. And so that 5 minute window where they were getting that inventory shown to those customers faster
Mhm.
was making them a lot of money because the
Wow.
other suppliers who were
Mhm.
buying the same stuff
Mhm.
didn't have it listed in that first 5 minute window. And so
Mhm.
they captured a lot of that demand without having to compete with the other sellers.
What a great response. Thank you. Uh, since we just spoke about some of the challenges, I want to ask you what, in your view, are some of the common automation mistakes you have
Oh my
observed
goodness.
that businesses tend to make?
There are so many mistakes. I
Mhm.
would say the number one mistake I'm seeing is individuals who are kind of forcing automation onto the company. So this happens when a business owner listens to this podcast and they're
Mm,
like, "Oh my gosh,
mm,
we are falling behind. AI and automation is taking over the world.
mm,
We are going to lose if we don't automate." And they
mm,
run around and go into their company and they immediately tell everybody, "Okay, from now on, I want you to try to automate and do AI for everything you're doing."
mm,
And the whole company freezes because
mm,
they haven't talked about automation at all. It's not part of their culture.
mm,
They don't understand whether or not automation is going to replace them,
mm,
right? Like, do I get replaced? If I automate my job, do I get replaced? Do you fire me because the computer costs a tenth of what I cost
yeah.
to make this happen? And so until you've laid the framework for your company to understand that the best teammates are those who do automate the work they
Mm,
do.
mm,
And when we grow together. And so those who learn and grow and push on that experience and connect all of those different dots,
mhm,
those are the ones that truly make a difference when it comes to building a new company. And so
mm,
you've got to create that culture
mm,
where people are willing to automate. And
mm.
when they automate, you reward them. So if he
Correct.
automates away his job, probably give him a raise and tell him to go automate something else.
Well said. Well said. But the other question I wanted to ask you, Will, is that how can small and medium-sized companies leverage automation to scale without making big investments?
So 15115 is where I would tell you to go back to. So 15 minutes a day, an
Mm,
hour a week,
mm.
or an hour a month.
Yeah.
Find those tasks.
Mm,
And the smallest company, the solopreneur,
mm,
right? The guy who's out there and he's on his own, he's building websites. That guy is currently, every time he builds a website, he has to do a checklist of things for
mm,
the SEO. He has to do a checklist of things for different sides of it. The
mm,
interesting thing about entrepreneurs is we don't like to do the same thing over and over again, which is
mm,
hilarious
mm.
because that's what we're building is a business that does the same thing over and over again.
Correct.
So I would say the way they can leverage automation is by identifying those different pieces.
Mm,
And then as soon as they've found the 15115s in their business and they've done it 5 times manually,
mm,
begin to invest. So what I mean by that is go to Fiverr
mm,
or go to a platform like Upwork, answer where's
mm,
the data now?
mm,
Where does the data need to go?
mm,
What triggers this process to start? How much time am I currently spending on it? If you answer those questions and you
mm,
kind of dig into that and post, you'll be shocked at how many people you get back who some recommend applications to implement in your business because maybe the thing you're trying to automate, there's already an app for that.
mm,
So that would be the place that I would go, and then I would use something like Perplexity,
mhm.
which is an amazing platform that
Yeah.
helps you kind of pick apart where you're going to go next. And what I mean by that is it's replaced Google for me. So
Mm,
Perplexity is just a fantastic platform that helps me research what's out there. So if you're
yeah.
trying to figure out what to automate next, go slap it into Perplexity. Where's the data now? Where do the data need to go? And ask it like, what apps should I be using to automate this?
Mm, amazing. Amazing. Will, you also specialize in integration. What, in your view, are the most in-demand integrations for e-commerce businesses now?
The most in-demand integrations for e-commerce businesses that I'm seeing are often the so there's a platform called ShipStation.
Hmm.
ShipStation does a fantastic job of making it really simple to push tracking information up to your channel. So they'll give you a platform where you can print off new labels. They'll give you a platform where you can send labels off to a direct distributor,
Mm,
all of that kind of information.
mm,
And so their most common, the place that they made a name for themselves
mm,
was as soon as that tracking number was created, they were pushing it up to the original source, right? So if the order came from Walmart, they were pushing it right back to Walmart. If the order came
mm.
from eBay,
Yeah.
pushing it right back to eBay. Amazon,
Mm,
right back. So pushing that tracking information was probably one of the most common things that I was seeing.
mm,
one place that I've seen e-commerce sellers spend a lot of time is copying and pasting those tracking numbers
Mm,
out of their emails and pushing them into whatever the platform, because they'll often have a supplier and the supplier says, here's all the orders we fulfilled today, and here's a spreadsheet of all the tracking numbers.
mm,
Well, what people don't recognize and don't know, and it's crazy to me that they don't even know it today,
mm,
you can completely automate that. So you can set up an inbox. There's several different platforms that will do it. Mail Parser is one. Zapier has its own inbox
mm,
parser that you can use. You can then extract those tracking numbers out of the email
mm,
and send them off to the different channels,
mm,
or send them back into ShipStation, for example, and then ShipStation takes part in that process of marking things as shipped.
mm.
So that was a very common integration we ran into, was
Right.
people copying and pasting out of their email. So that's what you're looking for. Look for situations where you're copying and pasting and
Mm,
it's taking you more than 15 minutes a day, an
mm.
hour a week, or an hour a month.
Amazing. You also emphasize finding what the end user wants. How do you validate product market fit early on?
Man, I would tell you the number one thing I would do to product market fit validation is ask people to open their wallets
Mm,
right now.
mm,
So in business, we often get nervous about this idea of putting our product out there, because what if I get rejected? What if people don't want what I have?
right.
Well, if you let go of that self-esteem issue and
Mm,
you start asking people for money, because
mm,
if you're making pie and you give it out for free and you say, should I sell this?
mhm,
Everybody's going to say yes, because you just gave them free pie,
mm,
right? But if you put up the stand on the corner and you actually put, $2 for a slice of pie,
mm,
and you can actually get people to come over and they eat the pie and then they come back for a second piece of pie, and you're asking for a dollar amount, like there's actual money involved, that's where things really start to go the direction you would want them to go, because you'll validate.
mm,
If nobody comes and buys, even if you sell it for a tenth of what you think it's worth, maybe each
mm,
slice of pie should be worth $10,
mm,
and you only sell it for one, you've validated that there are actually people walking around who are hungry.
mm.
You didn't know that. Maybe the corner of the street you're on, nobody's hungry,
Yeah,
right? And so validation comes in asking people to open their wallets.
well said. Well said. And when I was reading about you preparing for this conversation, I was also fascinated about what you state on that how important it is to acquire the first 10 customers. What are some strategies you use to acquire the first 10?
So the first thing I would tell you is go cold call.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pick up the phone. And people are like, the phone? That's like such an old way of talking to people. And I
Yeah.
was like, there is no faster way to figure out whether or not your current go-to-market strategy is accurate
Mm,
than calling up a customer.
mm,
And they get, remember, like my cell phone, if your cell phone's like mine,
mm,
I get hundreds of cold calls every single week. Like
mm.
hundreds of people calling me.
Yeah.
And do I answer them?
Mm,
I try to avoid answering them at all costs,
mm,
right?
mm,
When I do answer them, you give them about 7 words
mm,
before you'll hang up on them, or you'll say, sorry, I'm not interested.
mm,
7 words. If you can figure out which 7 words open your product door,
mm,
you're onto something. And those 7 words go on top of your emails, they go on
mm,
top of your everything. And guess what it cost you to call
mm,
those 100 people who you called?
mm.
Nothing. I mean, it cost you an
Yeah.
hour to
Yeah.
to call through, and so the other thing I would say is, when you call people, tell them you want feedback.
Mm,
Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I got this new idea. I'm making a back scratcher, but it's not just any back scratcher. It's a back
mm,
scratcher that automatically scratches your back, or whatever it is.
mm, mm,
You're gonna get hung up on.
mm,
That's a an indication that the 7 words you're using are not the 7 words that need to be used. Because
mm.
had you were used the 7 words that need to be used, you'd still be on the phone.
Yeah.
So no faster way to validate whether or not you're beginning to find
Mm,
words that actually get you past the gatekeeper to the entrepreneur who owns it. And then remember, open the freaking wallet. Like, hey, would you be willing to put down $5 against this automated back scratcher
Mm,
that I'm making? All I need is a credit card and it's completely refundable. We're just going to charge you $5 now, and then as soon as it's ready, we'll ship it to you.
mm.
If they're not interested, then you don't have a product.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So we'll have time for two more questions for you. Um, can you talk to us about an example of an automation experiment that went wrong or didn't work? And what did you learn from it?
Oh man. So I run a company called Entrepreneur's Apprentice.
Yeah.
And at Entrepreneur's Apprentice, we clone entrepreneurs. So
Mm,
we take young, hungry entrepreneurs and we
mm,
pair them with overwhelmed entrepreneurs.
mm,
So inside our company, we've automated hundreds of different parts of the process.
mm,
And we bring on all of this new talent and we pair them with these overwhelmed entrepreneurs, right? And so as we've done that, we had this interesting situation where we were trying to extract information out of LinkedIn. And I was looking at, man, how do I get this out of here to
mm.
connect these dots? I reached out to LinkedIn and they're like, well, yeah, if you pay $2,000 a month. And I was like, that's way more than we want to pay for
Sure.
making this stuff connect. And
Mm,
so I actually wrote myself a Chrome extension.
mhm,
So I use a platform called Cursor,
mm,
Cursor.
mhm,
Cursor is the name of the platform,
mhm,
and it has an IDE that's hooked into AI, and so it'll allow you to kind of write your own stuff. And so we went out and did that, and I think the thing that I was most surprised with was how long it took. It
mm,
actually ended up taking me a full 8 hours.
mm.
And so I would call that a little bit of a failure from a standpoint of like, wow, that took more time than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I thought it would.
Mm,
But in the end, it's paid for itself many, many times over with the hundreds of applicants we sift through at
mm,
Entrepreneur's Apprentice.
mm. Amazing. And my last question for you, what advice would you give to a business owner who's hesitant to automate their process?
Oh my goodness. The first thing I would tell a business owner who wants to, so remember my framework, my mission in life is automate, delegate, eliminate.
Mm,
If you're hesitant to automate, it may be because the thing you're trying to automate should be
mm,
delegated versus automated. But
mm,
you won't know that until you've done it 5 times manually. So don't hesitate to get out there and get your hands dirty. Do it 5 times manually. After you've done that, you got to ask yourself, should I be automating this, delegating this, or eliminating this? And if you're delegating, you're cloning yourself. Like I
mm,
told you with the Entrepreneur's Apprentice and the program
mm,
that we go out and find people to connect those different dots.
mm,
So that's what I would say is go out, dig into automation, and don't be afraid to do it 5 times manually
mm,
because that'll tell you whether or not it should be automated, delegated, or eliminated. No longer
mm,
done in the business because it's not making the value you thought it would.
mm. Wow. And on that note, Will, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been. I just love the way you have managed to create such amazing little uh, points like automate, delegate, eliminate, the 15115. I loved what you told me about 7 words and how critical it is for a telecaller to actually hook you in those 7 words. Thank you for talking to me about data automation at so much length. I think what you're doing is absolutely fascinating. And in the world of e-commerce, which is even more interesting. Thank you again for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.